Welcome to Foster Carolinas, connecting the Carolinas to voices of foster care.
LOT, the place I wanna be. Come and sit down, have a foster chat with me. Podcast bridging the campus, Mr. Beach.
Welcome to a new episode of the Least of These podcast. I'm Tiffany Jothan.
My name's Aaliyah Drake.
It's good to have you on the episode, Aaliyah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for coming over here. And for those listening or watching, Aaliyah is a former foster kid who's now 19 years old and in her second year at Gaston College pursuing the medical field, which is awesome. And here on the podcast, we've been doing a series on perspective. And so today I wanted to find out a little bit more about your experience in the foster care system, but also pursuing higher education. Let's kind of start at the beginning of your foster journey and just as much as you're comfortable sharing. I know you were in foster care, you said from ages 10 to 15 when you were adopted at 15. Yes. So what was it like? Tell me what it was like coming into foster care, some of the things going through your head, and then just your experience over the next few years.
Yeah, so when I got taken away from my biological parents, I got taken at school.
Wow.
So it was a scene because I was like, who are these people and why are they taking me? And I'm not going with you. I don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very high emotion, very stressful, something I wouldn't want any other kid to go through, especially at the age of 10.
So you're what? It was that like fifth grade? Elementary school still?
Yeah, it was fifth grade, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fifth grade. And then it was also really embarrassing because all of the other students and, staff were there, and it was like, like everybody's here and everybody knows. So it was rough to begin with. Yeah.
So you were totally blindsided. Like you had no idea that was coming.
No, not at all. We had been getting knocks at our door, but our mom would just tell us to be quiet and to just go in the back room. And I didn't know anything. We lived in kind of a sketchy area, and so it wasn't out of the ordinary. But those knocks were DSS trying to come and get us. I think they took my sister from daycare, and then my little brother, I think they took him from school as well.
Okay. So did you all three? Like, where did you go right away?
So I was right in front of the DSS building. So we literally took like a 1-minute drive over there. We walked in the building. They put me in have you seen the rooms that look like interrogation rooms where they have like
in the movies?
Yes, where they have like the mirrors and they can see on inside but you can't see out. We went into one of those rooms and we sat there and just sat there. No one really told us anything. Someone finally came in and told us, we wouldn't be going back home. We'd be going, somewhere else, that they were trying to figure out somewhere for us to go, and they're not sure where we're going to go, but everything was going to be okay. And it was really like, are you sure everything's going to be okay?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of crying, but I had to be strong for my siblings because they were confused and really upset, and my brother was a mama's boy, so it was really hard. I want to say that they called our grandma, but she lived in South Carolina, and they were like, well, you're too far away. So I think it was like later, it was dark when we went to our first foster home. It was all three of us together at first. We got there and it was like, oh, okay, it's time for bed. And it was super weird. We weren't really told a lot of anything. So it was like, I really didn't know too much of what was going on. But the next day we went to school like normal. It was
so they drove you? Did they drive you to school, like your foster family or the
Yeah,
DSS workers?
the foster mom, she drove us to school.
Mhm.
She already had one child at the time, another foster kid. It was just really weird at the beginning. It
Yeah.
was like, I don't really understand. I don't know why we're here. Not a lot of explaining either because I was just a child.
Mhm.
But it would have been nice to have been told, like,
Yeah.
you're not going back anytime soon. Like, some clarification as
Yeah.
to what was going on with my life and my future.
So did you know why you were taken at that point? Didn't anyone share that?
Um, actually, no.
Mhm.
I still to this day I know a roundabout of
Mhm.
why I got taken, but it was nothing that had ever happened to me.
Mm.
It was because my dad violated his parole. So my father had went to prison for physically abusing me and my little brother. And he had got out, was on parole, was living in these I forget what they call it, but it's like
Mhm.
little apartments
Mhm.
for inmates. They help them get a job and help them get started back on the good track.
Mhm.
And I was a daddy's girl. It was worse those 3 years with just my mom. It was really, really tough. I think we went through more with just my mom being her manipulative self than with my dad and his, anger. So we winded up seeing my dad. We would talk to him and see him and, get lunch and dinners with him. And finally, I asked my mom one day, I was like, when is he going to come back? When is he going to move in? Um, my mom and dad were talking to the parole officers. My mom had a restraining order against my dad. She did apparently drop it, or she did something with it. I'm not really sure. Um, and my dad's parole officer said he could come and live with us, that would be okay. He would still have to do the check-ins every week, and she would have to come there and see the house and everything, normal checking the list off stuff.
Mhm.
Um, he was probably back for about 3 months before we got taken, and it was because my mom had not got the okay from her parole officer and from her side of the agreement. And apparently the restraining order was not dropped. So he was technically violating his parole, and it just was a whole mess.
Mhm.
So that's why we got taken away, not because of the abuse, not
Mhm.
because of, anything that ever happened. So it was kind of a broken system and how we got taken away. I mean, my mom especially, was not a fit parent at all. I mean, we had a house always. We lived in our car for like a few months.
Like all three siblings
Yes,
too?
all three of us and my mom. My mom tried to play victim a lot to try to be like, oh, I'm a single mom, and we were abused and this and that, but it was not the case. It it did take me a little bit to realize that, oh, it was my mom. My mom was the issue. Um, but and a lot of people, when I tell them that, they're like, "But how? It's your mom." And it's like, "Yeah, it's my mom, but
Mhm.
she wasn't the best." And I mean, it was rough.
Mhm.
So,
And I do want to come back to your biological family, just again, as much as you even care to share.
of
But
course.
if you can take me back to those first moments, that first night, you're sleeping in an unfamiliar bed. You just came from school to the office to some stranger's house late at night.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to dwell on that too much because I also have some other questions for you about where you are now. But if you can just give me a brief summary of what that was like in the first, whatever few days,
Yeah,
and
so
what was going through your head.
yeah. So the first foster home we were in, first night, I was scared. I didn't sleep much at all. I actually stayed up, watching over my sister. My brother was in another room. So I would get up and I would, look in his room and make sure he was okay. Because I was used to being the parent. So it was kind of my job to make sure that my siblings were okay. And I would get up and I would check on them, check on my sister. She was upset. I had to explain to her, the best I could that this is just where we're at right now. I don't really know what's going on. We're not going to see mom and dad for a long time. I don't know when we're going to see them. Just kind of explaining to them that, it's going to be okay. Our first foster home that we were in, we actually got separated. It was an abusive situation. It was not a good home. It was actually pretty much what I came from my biological parents. So I got put back into another abusive home, a foster parent home. My brother, I think we lived there for about a year before my brother had to move because of his behaviors, which, I mean, it wasn't necessarily his behaviors. It was he was the only one that would stand up, and she would lock us outside all day in the summer with just a little pitcher of water, and she would keep my brother inside, and you could hear my brother yelling sometimes, and then she'd bring him back outside, and he'd just sit there, and it was like he would just cry, and he'd be like, "She just hit me," you know. And I finally told my, because of course I was scared, it continued to happen even when I left. So I finally told my caseworker, and at first they didn't believe me. At first they thought we were lying. They didn't believe us. They actually didn't even open an investigation. They just were like, we were lying. Then I think one of the other kids, because when my brother left, the little boy that was originally there, his sister had came, and she was planning on adopting them, the boy and his sister. And he wound up speaking up and telling, that she had jammed keys in his stomach and, had hit him a few times. And that is when they finally decided to move us. And they moved all of us children. We had a open investigation, or we had to go and talk to lawyers and tell them what happened. And
so that led to you moving to their home? Now, was this your eventual adoptive home, or was this an in-between? How many homes were you in?
I believe I was in, between the homes and between respite.
Right.
It gets a little bit wishy-washy but I think it was about 5 or 6 homes.
Okay. So how old were you when you went to what became your adoptive home?
I was 12.
Okay. And then at 15 you said you were adopted. Were your brother and sister adopted by the same people?
Not by the same.
Okay.
My sister was adopted by the same. But my brother, however, was adopted by my biological grandparents.
Okay. And have you ever been reunited with your parents?
With my biological dad, not with my mom.
Okay.
I don't really speak to her or want to. I don't.
You have a relationship with your dad.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good. I want to jump ahead to today, and we can always come back to like what it was like coming to care. And as a foster mom, I'm always on the flip side, and so it's really eye-opening to hear straight from someone who's going into these homes. Whenever we open up our home, it's like, I don't know what it's like to be a child coming into a stranger's house. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
So jumping ahead to today, you're an EMT.
Yes.
So you're 19, you're an EMT, and I hear you want to be a surgeon.
Yes.
Which is something I could never do. So that's great. And that's so wonderful. And I'm wondering what inspired you first of all, to go into the medical field?
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story. I don't know exactly what, sparked the wanting to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I know ever since I was about 11 years old, I was like, I'm going to be a surgeon. And I've stuck with it.
Yeah.
It has never left my mind. I've
Mm-hmm.
never wanted to be anything else.
What
I
kind of
just,
surgeon?
Cardiac.
Really?
Yes.
Just go straight for the heart, literally.
Right, yes, straight for the heart.
Wow. You don't mess around. Okay.
Yes. Pretty much being an EMT was just my start to the medical field. But I don't really know what sparked the interest. I just know it just happened.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was just like, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do it. And
must be that desire and that determination for a reason.
yeah,
Right? That's cool.
yeah.
And did you always know you wanted to go to college? You're in your second year at Gaston College here, and did you feel like, oh yeah, that's just what I'm gonna do, or did it ever, especially growing up in foster care, at some point seem like it was just out of the question and out of reach?
So, a lot of foster children feel like they can't or feel like they don't deserve to, get a higher education. That was never my thought. My thought was, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better than my parents ever did. I'm going to do better than, anyone in my past has ever done. Like, I'm going to be better. So that determination led me, and I knew to get to med school, I had to become a surgeon, I had to go to school.
Yeah.
Um,
I hope.
yeah, so
Please go to school.
right. Don't just cut me open for, but it just I knew. Somehow I just knew, and it just happened. It just lined up and it just happened.
Yeah,
So
that's great. You're talking about some foster kids don't feel like they deserve to go to college.
Yeah.
Why? What do you mean by that? Or why do you think that is?
Yeah, so even me, being a former foster kid, I still take the foster kid title. I mean, I was a foster kid. I am a foster kid. Even though I'm adopted, it didn't really, change anything for me personally. I mean, I have a new mom and dad on my birth certificate that I love, but, I'm still a foster kid at heart. I spent foster care in my prime years of growing up. But being in foster care and, not having that support that most children have, it can be very, it kind of just pushes you down, makes you not feel deserving of things. Having that background of, the abuse in your own parents not wanting you or, treating you some type of way, it just kind of, it tears the person down. It tears a child down. It really does. A lot of foster kids have trouble finding their self-worth and finding that, we can break the generational curse. We can. So it just, going to school, even though foster kids get, college for free, they feel like it's so out of reach. It's so like they've never known of it. Their parents never went, their grandparents never went, no one in their family. They get into foster care and they're like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? A lot of them don't know. A lot of them don't have the, I'm going to be a surgeon.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's not easy. School is not easy. But it takes a lot of determination and a lot of, resilience to go on and do better things.
And when you say foster kid, like the title of foster kid, and you're still that at heart, what does that mean? How do you define a foster kid?
Yeah, so a lot of me, how I defined it is, we're stronger than ever. We are brave. We are talented. We're beyond a lot of children. A lot of children did not have to grow up as fast as we did. a lot of kids did not have to go through what we had to go through, and for us to still be up and doing stuff,
Yeah.
and you know,
You're resilient.
yeah, resilient.
Yeah.
Going against our odds,
Mhm.
breaking those curses of you're just going to be like your parents.
Mm.
I was told that so many times, by caseworkers, by foster parents, by, people at school. You're just going to end up like your parents. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm better. I can do better. Being a foster kid is so much more than just being a kid. Being a foster kid, you have a story, and a big one at that.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't matter what you were taken away from your parents for, or what happened to you. You always have that story. You always have something bigger than what most children have. You know, you have that resilience of being different, having that, traumatizing past, or
Mhm.
having that, parents that weren't always there for you. You had to learn and depend on yourself. At least for me, I did.
Mhm.
And I had siblings who depended on me, and I had to be there for them. I didn't really have a choice.
Mhm.
So it definitely means a lot more, with being a foster kid. Um, it has a title to it. It definitely does.
Yeah, I'm sure it feels like you're swimming upstream a lot, and a lot of kids don't have to do that,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? And so you mentioned college for free, and I'm sure that varies by state. In North Carolina, if you age out and you're 12 or over, you can get
Yes.
in-state tuition free, and I mean there are different rules and everything, but you've also been able to get some help along the way through other means. So one of them you mentioned was a scholarship through Least of These. And then I just jotted down some notes here because you've had several connections with through Least of These, which is
Oh,
great.
yeah.
So Bridge Camp, Bags of Hope, Shoes of Hope, Christmas event. We won't go into details about all of those, but all of these are opportunities to, well, Bridge Camp is all about bringing these foster kids together, having a good time, building them
Yes.
up, community. Shoes of Hope, Bags of Hope, getting you those essentials,
Yes.
preparing you for school. And then with the scholarship, you were telling me earlier, that was a huge help with books and school supplies for college. And so, all of these are things that helped you reach your goals. And so some people listening might have dreams of going to college or pursuing some other goal after high school, and maybe maybe they feel overwhelmed or alone and aren't really sure where to start. And so I think we're not meant to do life alone. We
Oh,
are built for community. And if you don't mind, can you just expand on these different things that you've been able to tap into, like what it's like to know that there are people out there to support you and to look out for you and help you get to that next step.
yes. It definitely takes, a support group. It's not easy to do alone. Kudos to anybody that does it completely alone.
Mm-hmm.
At least having one person to be there to support you throughout the way. Starting college, it's a big deal. It's hard. You don't know, especially if you don't know what, career path you want to go on. You just know you want a higher education. You're not sure what you want to do. You just know that you would like a higher education. Um, I would say, to start off with finding things that you like. Us, me, being in foster care and having, that background, I want to help out kids, that are in foster care and going through foster care. I want to help out foster parents as well. Being through all the foster homes I've been through, the parents need help as well. They need support, which Lisa These does give to them. But they need more support. They need people to be there to listen to them too, because it's not easy being a foster parent.
Amen.
It's not easy.
Amen.
But for the kids to definitely have that support. One person, yourself, if need be. You know, one constant you will always have if you're not religious, you'll have yourself forever. If you are religious, you know, you have God. You always have you and God, no matter what. So I would say, you know, use the positive mindset of I will, and you know, it is possible. Don't bring yourself down, because that's what a lot of people do. They are like, it's too hard, or I'm not good. I wasn't good in high school, or you know, it's just it's something that it's new to me. It's something that I don't know, and it's like, that's okay, you know. Just, you know, go with the positive mind. You know, school, at least now, I feel like everybody needs at least some type of higher education. Jobs now are just not as easy to get unless you're working at fast foods or Walmart. And I'm not downing any of that. I mean, it's a job. Do what you got to do. But to, you know, pursue a career and a dream, whatever that may be, we kind of need college.
And it doesn't have to be a 4-year university.
Yeah, it could be a certificate. I mean, my EMT is a certificate. You can get paramedic certificate.
Or a trade, some specific trade. Yeah.
Trades. There's a whole bunch of things that you could do. And a lot of kids don't know that, you know, there's so much out there. Like, you don't just have to, you know, go and, you know, get an associate's degree in science. You can go and get, you know, an associate's in arts, or you can go and do, you know, general ed or teacher prep, or, you know, the trades, or there's so much more to school than just, you know, the associates in science and associates in arts.
Don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Right.
And I would say too, I mean, just in our experience, to add on to that, guidance counselors at school are such a huge help to let you know what's even out there. Yes. A lot of times now high schools have programs where you can graduate with an associate's or with some kind of certification. But by the time you graduate college, like that, or high school, I mean, that's great. And I wanted to know too, because you were talking about even if you just have one person, and maybe somebody listening doesn't have one person. And to that, I would say, think of somebody you can reach out to. It might be your family or your school or your church or a neighbor or whatever. But is there a particular person who encouraged you along the way? And if so, how did they encourage you?
So throughout the way, I didn't have one person until I, you know, went to my last foster home that I was at. I had my little sister. She was always there. She was encouraging to me because she, you know, was like, oh, you do have to, you know, you have to do good. So if I did had to pick one person, it would probably be her. But she was encouraging in a different way. She was encouraging of, you know, you have to do this for us. It was never about me. It was always about her and her future and trying to do better for her, because I knew that's what she needed, you know. But when I got to my last foster home and I got adopted, I have wonderful parents that have been there for me. I have a wonderful brother that's been there for me, which is their biological son. He's been there for me every step of the way. My parents have been there every step of the way. They've helped me a lot. They didn't go to college, so they didn't really know, you know, how to do it really. But we figured it out. My brother helped us. He went to college. It's just, even if you don't have one person, I feel safe to say that you will have one person eventually. Even if just now it feels like just you. Like my little sister, she was my one person. But she was smaller than me. You know, she wasn't going to come up and be like, "Oh, you know, so much wisdom," and tell me a whole bunch of everything. Like, she was still in diapers. So the one person, I think it's safe to say that you probably do have one person out there. even if you feel like you don't. Because my sister, she was.
Yeah, and I think a lot more people care about you than you might realize.
Yeah. I know I have a lot more people out there than just, my family circle.
Yeah.
But I have friends, and I have people I work with, and I have a lot of people at Gaston College because I work there as well. So
yeah. We are about out of time. I think if we're not totally out of time, Aaliyah, but thank you so much for sharing your story. Seriously, the insight and just what this has been like, and pursuing higher education is great, and it's so good to have you. Thank you.
Podcast bridging the gap.